Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Donna Montgomery, and I am the Chief Clinical Informatics Officer at Lone Star, and have the privilege today of interviewing Dr. Napoleon Player. He has a very distinguished position at Texas Health Resources, which I will let him tell you a little bit about himself. But really, our topic today is about the diversity that nursing enables and that we all support. So we want to dig into that a little bit. So Napoleon, I'd like you to talk to us about what really inspired you to become a nurse.
So one of the things that inspired me to become a nurse is when I was in high school, I had a little bit of a different pathway. I really, believe it or not, wanted to be in politics. I really wanted to be a senator or like a public speaker. And so right before we graduated from high school, one of my really dear friends, unfortunately, um, died in a car accident.
Oh, wow.
And so a little dramatic, but it really drove my passion of wanting to help people in a little bit of a different way. And so when I kind of analyzed that situation and started to understand a little bit about the care that was given and all that, I was like, who are these people that have the opportunity to turn someone's life around? And so I became very passionate about healthcare. And that drove me to really looking at what are the steps in becoming something entry level in healthcare. So I said, so what can I do? I don't have a lot of skills. I've kind of got this background that was very geared towards politics. But I did have some chemistries and some of the foundational things. And so I kind of pivoted my life and became an EMT right out of like high school.
Oh, wow.
And so when I worked at EMS, it was great. It was wonderful. But I was like, I want to do more. And so I heard about one time dropping a patient off, oh, they've got to take that person to the operating room. And I wanted to know, where's the operating room? What do those people do? So of course we didn't have Google back then, Donna.
Right.
And so I quickly just tried to find anything I could on the internet and just started asking people like, what is the operating room? Who are they? And of course everybody talked about the surgeon and the anesthesiologist. And it's like, who are the nurses in there? I want to know a little bit more about that. So I became a surgical technologist in the operating room, which was the entry level. I got an associate's degree in surgical technology. And I quickly moved into, okay, now what are the next steps? Once I became a surgical tech in an operating room, I became an RN. And I just kept going and progressing in my career. So that's a little bit of my diversity and how I got here from just kind of a dramatic event in my life and taking those dramatic events and making it a positive event. I think that is just so important in life. We kind of have those pivotal moments that we must endure through.
So let me ask you a question about that. So lots of times, not as much now as when I was a baby nurse, but still, when people think of nursing, many times they think, oh, that you have to be a woman to be in nursing. Now, you did choose an area that probably has many more males in it, but can you talk about that a little bit? I mean, did you find challenges in that? And, what gave you your continual passion to persevere?
Yeah, absolutely. So many times I found becoming a new nurse coming out, people would always ask me, like in the operating room, or if I ever went up on the floor and like help people, it was always, hey, can you go to orthopedics? Because they just assumed drills, saws, those types of things, or hey, this is a heavy lift or total care patient. So you find people kind of trying to steer me into that. There's a lot of stuff out there on social media about that and what that looks like. It was very interesting that when I was in the operating room, they would always steer me to bariatrics. And so we would do these duodenal which is these really extreme complex cases to correct bariatric conditions. And so a lot of movement, on and off the operating table. So people just equated that I necessarily wanted to go to this case, which I love anything that's operating room and anything that provides care to a patient. That's my passion. But I do find a lot of times that people will assume, oh, they may not want to go into some of the more finite stuff. It was very interesting. My rotation, and nothing against nursing schools in any kind of way, but I felt like my OB rotation was a complete waste of my time. All I did was just kind of stand on the wall.
Yeah.
Nobody would let me do anything.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of other male nurses out there that kind of feel like, okay, help me understand that a female nurse can go and do anything under the covers without grabbing someone. But as a male nurse, I have to go and I have to find a PCT or someone else to kind of go in the room with me. So I've always found that very interesting in healthcare, that kind of the men or male nurses, have to have these extra components to make sure that they're staying safe.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I agree with you, especially since most of our OB/GYN
Or female.
doctors are male. So anyway.
Yeah, always an interesting
Interesting.
topic. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, part of our learning and growing as a profession, I think, and probably helping our faculty and educators think about that a little bit different way. So that's good. So you've been very successful in your career and continue to be that. Talk a little bit about like where you are now and maybe some of the ways you feel like you were able to accomplish all of the things that you've been able to accomplish.
So early in my career, I worked under a director who always told me or shared the benefit of being connected to professional organizations. And that was able to give me much more of a direct and a focused approach into the next steps. And so I was able to see, do I want to do that? Do I want to be a director? Do I want to be a C? And so that having those opportunities and that access to people that were, well above where I could see myself going, afforded me the opportunity to see that not all CNOs have a master's degree in business. Not all have a master's degree in healthcare. I mean, it is different varieties.
Yes.
And it depends on what your focus is and kind of where you want to spear I should say, throw your dart where your target is. And so those leaders were very big on, you're going to be a member of AORN. And I think back then when I started healthcare, there was a lot of focus on, you're going to have to be in a professional organization if you want to grow. And even hold leadership. We could not go to conferences or national conferences if we were not active at the local level.
Yeah.
And so those are some of the protocols there. And so, of course, when you have like AORN in New Orleans or, you've got some of these fun places you want to go to, you quickly decide, okay, I'm going to be active locally so that I can attend at a greater purpose and also have an influence there. And just having that magnitude of people to spear my life, I think has helped me a lot in my career. And then I would also say just those people or those cheerleaders in your life, just say that you can do it. I never thought I could become Dr. Player when I started. I had no dreams of even becoming. I was like, I can get my bachelor's and I'm done. I am done. I don't want to do it. And just having friends in that, just kind of that career trajectory that will kind of make those pivotal moments to kind of speed you up. Because there were times of like, oh, I'll do it in the next 5 years. I'm like, okay. I had the opportunity to have Dr. Cole Edmondson as a mentor in my life. And one of the things that he was kind of telling me when I took this position here is that absolutely you're going to go and get it. And you need to look at the ROI. And he kind of printed out some articles and showed me the ROI of your doctoral degree. By a particular age, and at a certain point, you need to just get it done.
Right.
And you just need some of those people in your life that are in a bigger role, that have a bigger picture, have their hands in a different set of organizations to help that. And that was one of the things that with NTONL, he was absolutely demanding that you need to serve in that because you don't know everything. You need to look outside your own organization and figure out, hey, there are resources. There's somebody working on call light systems. Somebody's working on, different things that are out there. So why reinvent the wheel?
And you can connect with a new person, right? And learn.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, very good. So, one of the things that
I know you and I have talked about, and we talk about it in NTONL as an organization and in many other places, and I'm sure in your nursing leadership team you do. We are learning that when we have new nurses come into our profession, we do all these things. We orient them, we, try to buddy them with people, but really after about 2 years, they become very disengaged. Many of them get burned out. Many of them are fatigued, and they are leaving the bedside where we need them. So if someone's listening, Napoleon, to this, could you talk about how you would encourage them, just as others have encouraged you, about what they can do to maybe help themselves see a different way?
Yeah, so I want to first acknowledge that burnout is real.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to make sure that we understand the signs and symptoms of burnout. There's tons of tools out there that will help with that. And I think, if you're connected to organizations, many of them have resources as well for mental health. And I want to acknowledge that with my colleagues and my other professional people that may be hearing this. I would also say, going back to that mentoring and coaching piece, and I had to learn as I kind of started moving up, and I asked for an executive coach, and I did not realize exactly what it means to have a coach versus a mentor. And I was at the point of kind of getting in my career, like I've been doing this perioperative thing for quite some time, and I was afforded the opportunity to have an executive coach, and that executive coach taught me the difference between a mentor and a coach. And so you got to understand when you ask for a coach is going to tell you every misstep, every shot that you missed in the game, and when you should have done something different. And so those have been points in my life where maybe I was kind of a little burnt out with the vision of what I could see directly. And then they said, well, look over here. And let's use some of these tools to elevate your thinking or your vision. And that has afforded me the opportunity to see things differently. I'm not saying that you didn't feel burnt out, but just maybe here's some resources of maybe you need to figure out there is a very hard and fine line between work-life balance. Maybe we can find a way to just kind of figure out how we can do work-life harmony. Maybe playing with words, but getting that type of ideology to say, okay, I'm never going to perfectly balance this thing.
Yeah.
Maybe I can make it all play in harmony. And so those have been some tools and some things that I have learned of, how can I take electronics and say, okay, it's 7 o'clock, electronics have to go away. And it probably sounds childish, but because I know several parents that do those types of things, but I've been able to pull some of that into my life, and really been able to take the time off. I think that is so important, and find those techniques. As nurses, we want to help everybody. And then at the end of the day, especially as nurse leaders, many times we're without more, I guess, energy to keep going. And then I read a book. I'm not connected to any kind of way financially, but I read a book called The Sugar Jar, and it talked a lot about, your time is sugar. And so if you're always giving your sugar away to everybody else, when you get ready to bake your cake, it's going to be bitter because you have no sugar left in the jar. So I'm very protective of my time and what that means. And, some of the things that I've put in place as ground rules for meetings is start on time, end on time. You have to respect my time.
Yeah.
Because I only can give you so many hours in a day, right? And so I think that is very important. And those are some of the things. But again, being connected to professional organizations has been a resource to help me gain other resources, like the book, The Sugar Jar.
Yeah.
Because that came from another colleague.
Great point. Wow, that was really excellent. I really like that. You got me thinking about some different things too. So this diversity in nursing actually goes way beyond you being male, right? Because we're looking for all kinds of people to come into nursing, and for people maybe who think that it is a female dominated thing, that nurses don't have high satisfaction in their lives and in their career and other things like that, which we hear, right? We see that in some of our surveys, and feedback that we get from staff. Can you talk about a little bit, Napoleon, about, even if it's about your team, like, how do they encourage each other? How do you encourage them? And do you have a diverse workforce?
Yes. So a couple of things that I really try to make sure, when we look at diversity, you got to look at the full spectrum of diversity. And it's not male, female. It
Right.
can be age, it could be creed, sex, gender, all of these different things kind of all come into place. And so I think the first thing when people hear diversity, their mind goes directly to race. And I think that's understandable. But I think, when we look at diversity, we got to look at all of that and even diversity of careers. And I love nursing. I'm very passionate about nursing. But, again, I didn't follow that traditional path. I don't have an MSN. I have an MBA. And it is a healthcare focused MBA, but it gave me the opportunity to start thinking, I'm sitting at a table with finance. I'm sitting at a table with IT.
Right.
And I appreciated my doctoral program because it had so many components of that. Because as a nurse leader, I have to navigate and I've got to know a little bit of something about everything. And so that I think gives me drive and it gives me an opportunity to sometimes say, hey, I might want to play a little bit with politics. I still kind of have some of that knowledge. So it gives me an opportunity also to do that. We can go lobby in Austin. We can also work as a nurse leader. There's things that I do with finance, with performers and those types of things and capital purchases. And then there's also, like I said, I get a chance to play with AI and IT and robotics. And so nursing is just, and I would just kind of say, going back to the other question, when you start to feel maybe a little burnt out with this one thing, pivot a little bit and go into some of the other aspects of nursing. And I think that is the thing that is so beautiful about our profession. Our profession is a profession and an art. And I think when you look at it from that and you merge those two together, then that's when you start to say, hey, there's an art and there's a ministry behind what I do. And that is some of the things that I tend to do when I start looking at diversity. Do I have all of those little pockets of things and how do I put them together for my mission and my calling and the puzzle that I have to and the race that I have to run in this life?
That's great. So Napoleon, thank you so much for spending time with us. I think this was very insightful for me, and I know our community is going to be super excited about listening to this. Any last thoughts about diversity in nursing or anything that you'd like to say to our community?
Yeah. So I would just say to the community, I picked up on something that's super simple, but I think it's very helpful. Many years ago, when I started in healthcare, a guy named Coach actually gave me this mantra. And I truly believe you get out of it what you put into it. And so this is an art and a profession. And so you've got to practice. You will become what you practice. Where you spend your time is how you will excel. And that's how you execute. And I think that's so important as we're continuing, no matter what level of healthcare or nursing you're in, I think it's so important to make sure that you have mentors, coaches, and understand that you get out of it what you put into it. And so if you get a mentor, you don't put anything into it, or it's just a check in the box. You read a book and it's just, hey, I'm going to take this webinar. Whatever it is, you got to figure out what are the 2 or 3 digestible things that you can use to make a difference. Sometimes it really does get overwhelming. And I really do understand that with some of the adversity that I had to get to where I am. I've had to just kind of figure out how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And so I think as we do that, we've got to continue to do that. One of my professors, Dr. Beth Ulrich, really was big, and as we graduated with our doctoral degree, is like these things that we learn in class, I want you to continue using those things. So I still use some of those tools like our leadership assessment and saying, hey, I'm going to set 3 goals. Let's not set 21. Let's set 3 goals that are smart goals that I can use every day. And just finding ways to incorporate that into our day to day. Time is of the essence and it is limited.
Yes.
And so we have to make sure that we value that time. And I would just say you get out of it what you put into it and value your time.
Yeah, great summary for us, Napoleon. I really liked it. Thank you so much again. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. It was a great pleasure to do this.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.